REST. So I want to talk about REST, or the representational state transfer, which is basically is a way of structuring your web applications. It sounds complicated, but it's really fairly simple. So the basic idea is like, okay, so let's say you have a web application with some pins in them, right? So your database has a table called pin table, and let's say each pin will have a URL, say, to the particular image, and a caption to the caption for that pin, and an ID, which is a unique number, integer, that you give each pin, right? So the details don't matter. So this could be a blob, right? This could be a binary blob if you want, whatever. The main idea of REST, the representational state transfer, so the representational part, is that it doesn't matter what is in the server, right? So here's the server side, the database. It doesn't matter what it is, the server is going to have a bunch of these pins. And when, say, the client goes and asks for them, he's going to do a get to the server. He is going to get a representation of that thing. So we're going to return a representation of in this case, the pin, but whatever it is. So that's what that means. You ask for something, you get a representation of the thing. You don't get the actual thing, obviously. That would be kind of impossible, but it means that you can get multiple representations of the pin, right? Depending on what you want. For example, if you want it in XML versus JSON versus whatever, HTML, and so forth. So that's the basic idea. We have a database with stuff. The client or the browser is gonna get a representation of it. So a little bit more detail. If we go to, here's the Wikipedia page for the REST protocol, and it tells you how we organize our resources. So if you remember, HTTP has four main verbs: get, put, post, and delete. So get and post are the two main ones that we use a lot, but there's also put and delete, which you can use from your JavaScript. Okay, so let's say we have a resource and it's the pins. So going back here, what that table is telling us and what you should do in res is that if you do is there's a get to, say, /pin. If that get should return in turn a list, a representation, the list of all the pins, right? So I would assuming that pin, the pin is a table, so there's going to be a lot of pins. So get pin is going to return a list of all the pins. That's what this says. List of all the URIs and perhaps details of the collection member, right? So more importantly, it's going to tell us with the IDs, right? So each pin we assume has a unique ID. So when I say get pin, it's going to return to me all the pins, and it's going to return those URIs, right? Those URIs basically means each particular pin ID. Then when we do let's just go to post. If I do a post to /pin, what that is going to do is going to, on the server side, is going to create a pin. Create a new pin. And then perhaps, send us to that pin. But that's the main thing it's going to do, is create a new entry in the collection. And the new entry's URL is assigned automatically and is usually returned by the operation, right? So generally, we create a new pin and we might return new pin URL, which will be /pin/123, right? Where 123 is the ID. So /pin/123, 123 is the new pin's ID. So we have get, we have post. We also have put. If you do a put / pin, it's going to replace the entire collection with another collection. And if we do delete, it's going to delete the entire collection, right? So generally that we're not going, well, we tend not to replace that whole collection with another collection, but if you want it to be complete, that's what you're doing. So that's what we over here on the server side, replace collection, and finally delete / pin will delete the collection. Okay, but we're not done. So now we have to look at get pin 1, 2, 3. Obviously, it can be any number, not just 1, 2, 3. But if we do a get pin with the pin ID, right? You remember, post pin to the collection, creates a new pin, and then returns that new pin URL, which is / pin 1, 2, 3. Then probably the client is going to issue right after that a get pin 1, 2, 3. And this is going to fetch or it's going to return pin 1, 2, 3. Right, so that's over here. The get method get on a specific element, so the pin / item ID, retrieve the representation of the item, in this case the pin. So that's going to get us the pin. And similarly, if we do post to a pin / 1, 2, 3, then treat the address member as a collection in its own right and create a new entry in it. So it's going to let us change that particular pin and treat it as a collection, so we can change things about the pin. I'm sorry, create a new collection and add things to the pin. The put here is the one we use to show treat pin 1, 2, 3 as a collection. And you can see this again, if the pin was itself a collection of other pins, that would make sense. And a put to pin 1, 2, 3 is the one that is going to update information. And of course, the delete 1, 2, 3 is going to delete it. Delete pin 1, 2, 3 is going to delete the pin. Okay, so one word about these. So get pin 1, 2, 3 is going to return pin 1, 2, 3 was going to return a representation to 3. So the question is, well, what is that representation? So by default, this being the web, we're going to tend to default to HTML as the representation. But more commonly now, what we do is if it's pin 1, 2, 3, we return HTML. If the user asks for pin 1, 2, 3.json, then we're going to return the pin in JSON format. That's JavaScript object notation. Or if the person asks for pin 1, 2, 3.xml, we're going to return it in XML. You get the point. You see where I'm going with this. And whatever other format they want. You want to implement. So you can do it that way. You can also do it, pass it as an argument. This is also, you'll see this, like Google services do this. So question mark format equals JSON. So I want the pin 1, 2, 3, but I want it in JSON format. So they'll do that, and you return the pin in JSON format. So that is how we can tell, usually through these arguments, we tell the browser what we want. Another problem, a real world issue with this is that, the browser, when you're browsing the web, only implements post and get, right? It is only when your JavaScript can issue the put and delete, right? So, and not all browsers, well, not all modern browsers do, but not all browsers will be able to issue puts and deletes. So sometimes we have to get the post to do the job of the put and the delete, right? So, and this is generally done by, adding arguments to the post. So we can say pose method equals put. And that means that, well, even though this is technically a post, the server should treat it as a put. Or method equals delete, saying that, well, even though this is a post, I want to delete pin 1, 2, 3. So, and, there's no standard. Some people use command cmd equals delete. I've seen that. So the post gets abused a little bit. Now, most importantly, when you're designing your own REST, you have to remember sort of 3 things. The get should be a save method, meaning that your gets never change anything, so no side effects. No side effects in database. So your get, any get in your web application cannot do anything to the database, change anything in the database, except obviously maybe write to the log files and stuff like that, but it cannot change your main data structure, your pin. So get has to be a save. Now the puts and deletes methods have to be what we call item potent. That means that they, given the same arguments, it does the same thing, right? So if I call, basically what we're saying, if I call put slash pin 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 4, and then, whatever, and if I call that 10 times, it doesn't matter. So if I call it and I call it again, and I call it again, and I call it again, whatever happened after the first time, that was done. So if I do it again, it stays done, right? Nothing changes. So only the first one really matters. The other ones just keep doing, just don't actually change anything in your database. So basically, I said, okay, change his name to Bob, change his name to Bob, change his name to Bob, change his name to Bob. Shouldn't matter, right? Obviously, it's going to use some of your CPU time, but it's not going to mess up your database. So that's what we mean by these guys being idempotent. Same thing with delete, delete this guy, delete this guy, delete this guy. Obviously, the first one deletes him, the rest of them shouldn't do anything more. He's already deleted, you can't double delete him. And then posed is the one where bad things happen. Things change in your database. So it is widely acknowledged by the crawlers and people and web app designers that post is where you actually change things, and so you have to be careful about issuing the post. So these are the main 3 rules that you have to follow when you're building your own REST application.